for Syracuse and Stanford. We normally talk to you prior to the Fran Brown Show, Matt, but you had the Fran Brown Show last night because of the earlier game this week. Anything stand out to you from the coach?
Not really. I mean, we kind of trying to think. Kind of talked about his approach, and for him, a lot of the stuff that we talk about building up to games and all that, he kind of tries to downplay that you peak for the games. It's everyday habits and everyday approach and dart and all of that builds toward, you see the results on game day, I guess, but for him, it's about one day at a time and creating the habits that end you up in the win column, but are in there for the long haul as well.
Matt, we led the show with that it feels like the fans are expecting a win. And is it right for Syracuse to be going into a Power 4 game, only 2 games into the Fran Brown era, expecting to win?
Well, I think it's part of the enthusiasm that's been built up here. Certainly Syracuse is justifiably favored in this game, and you want to feel that way. It's fun to feel. The fun that you felt during the Georgia Tech game is leading a team for most of the game, against an opponent that you think is pretty good and came in leading the conference, atop the ACC standings technically at that moment, and now Syracuse is. And you know that with the roster and firepower they have, they're not really going to be outclassed. They're going to be in games against everybody they play, and so they're good competitive games. So the perception is Stanford's had a tough go in these last couple of years. That you're in good shape here. I do think it's presumptuous to be counting it as in the bag and all of that because again, it's a major conference program. Stanford recruits well for its academic reputation and other reasons. They've had a lot of good football players there over the years, and they're not coming here to lay down. So it's still is going to be a game, but I think you like the chances of the home team right now.
Last week, it was a bye week, and when we had you on, it was a little too early to delve deep into Stanford. But now that you've had a chance to prepare for the game, and we've seen them play twice, a close game against TCU, and then blow out Cal Poly. What stands out to you about this Stanford team?
Well, I think they have good athletes. And one of the themes for me going in is they're not only did it's one thing to say you have a dual threat quarterback. Ohio did, Georgia Tech did. Stanford has that. And has 2 quarterbacks at least, right? They're for sure going to play Ashton Daniels and Justin Lamson both in this game. So I think that alone eats up a lot of your preparation time and your game planning on the defensive end. And Elijah Brown, their third quarterback, is very highly touted and has been effective in the limited duty that he's seen so far this year. So it wouldn't be unthinkable that they play 3 quarterbacks. Alec Eilmanner is probably the best individual player that stepped on the field against Syracuse this year. I think only Haynes King could be an exception, really, if you think about pro potential and how gifted they are and that type of thing. So this is and I heard John a moment ago use the word elite. This is absolutely an elite future NFL wide receiver that is coming in here. So that creates a challenge that you haven't seen yet to this point. So I think that's where it starts. Stanford's probably not going to beat itself. They're well coached, and for me, it's just another kind of step in terms of what we're watching with Fran Brown putting his imprint on the program. If you go back to the idea of, one day at a time and all of that, for him, I think he views the game itself in the big picture is just kind of a blip. But obviously those are the ones where they keep score and it goes down in the record books, so it's important. And he views it as another step in their progression and unfolding what they have. So I think that's why it's intriguing.
Is this a game where, we all might be able to see just how much they miss a Marlo Wax? The fact that, as you said, they've got multiple quarterbacks. He's the guy with the helmet on, talking to the coaches and whatnot, the main communicator. And, to go up against 2 quarterbacks that like to run in different style. I mean, is this one of those games where you're really going to miss Marlo Wax?
Well, I don't think there are any games where you aren't going to miss an all-conference caliber middle linebacker.
You miss it more in a game like this, I guess.
Yeah, for however long he's out. Last week they put Fadil Diggs there, and Fadil Diggs is their best defensive player. I don't think he's going to be a middle linebacker for the long haul. I think that was a one-game kind of thing. Maybe he's out there in certain situations. They've used him that way in the red zone in certain formations. So you're going to have to develop somebody else there anyway, whether it's against Stanford or somebody else. What does James Hurd bring to the table? Derek McDonald and these other guys that are kind of picking up additional responsibilities. So that's going to continue to be a storyline for as long as Marlo is out, and that could well be the entire year. So that's what I think we're kind of keeping an eye on, and that'll be a lingering question, I think.
You said you heard our interview with John. He thinks that if Stanford has a chance in this game, that it's got to be a high-scoring game because he thinks that the Syracuse offense is going to be able to move the ball against this Stanford defense. I asked this question to Fran Brown yesterday. I want to get your thoughts on it, Matt. I think we kind of take for granted, when a quarterback comes into a new situation, everything he's got to go through, right? To learn a new coaching staff, to learn a new playbook, to learn, how to work with new receivers and the new personnel that he has. This transition Kyle McCord has made it's been about as seamless as it can be. Are you surprised we knew he was good. Are you surprised how quickly, I guess, he's been able to settle in and get this offense humming?
Well, I think it is unusual because we see quarterbacks transferring all over the country. Some work out, some don't. But what I think is probably underestimated and applies in this case is it's not as foreign as you might think. First of all, you have in Kyle McCord somebody who loves ball, thinking like a coach, is at an advanced level and has been for a long time, and he gets paired with people that he's had a relationship with for so long that it's just not the same as transferring to a foreign program or something that's completely different. Fran Brown and Jeff Nixon have been in and out, around Kyle McCord since Kyle McCord was, playing Little League, playing 8, 9, 10-year-old football. And so that's how he's grown up learning the game. He's learned the game from these guys, and had an obviously extraordinarily successful high school career and all of that. And these guys have had their eye on him. So this is a really rare thing. I think Kyle's in for a special year. I think we're all intrigued about who's the next quarterback and all of that, and how does this thing get sustained and keep going. But it's not. Let's not underestimate how special this really is. I think that's the rare part is how good a fit it's been. And Kyle obviously is somebody who's on the higher end, I think, of football IQ, as you'd hope quarterbacks would be, and that's why it's worked so far. It's
probably premature to talk about this, but we've thrown it out there a little bit. Ryan Nassir has the school record for most passing yards in a single season, averaged, I think, 288 per game. Kyle McCord's well ahead of that. It's only 2 games in. Do you think he can keep up this pace? Do you think he ultimately sets a record this year in terms of passing yards?
I mean, there's no reason to think that he can't. I mean, it's, again, not going to be handed to him or automatic. The other teams are scouting too. Other teams have defensive players, and they're going to hit him, and they're going to, intercept balls and things like that. So that'll happen, but he's certainly capable of it. Stanford, just off the top here, is averaging 280 yards per game allowed passing. There's, every reason to think that Kyle can have another good game. He plays in the dome a lot. The offensive line's been pretty good. He's got a lot of options at wide receiver. There's some depth there, and they need the depth. So that's what you're looking at. I would say certainly he's capable of it. He's every bit as good as Ryan Nassir was.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's circle back to this game tomorrow night. 7:30 kick inside the dome between Syracuse and Stanford. What does this game ultimately come down to in your mind?
I think Syracuse has to be sure they're really clean. Against better teams, and Georgia Tech's probably better than Stanford, and they survived that one. But we all know you can't make a habit of special teams blunders. You can't have multiple kicks blocked in a game. Not too concerned about the onside kick. That's a fluky kind of deal. The kick out of bounds is a fluky kind of deal, once or twice a season kind of thing. So those will, I think, be pretty well corrected. So far, knock on wood, they've played pretty clean games relative to turnovers. That would be recommended to continue because you're flirting with danger if you don't. And line up and play. I think take advantage of being at home and the home crowd and the Friday night and all that aspect of it, and Stanford's travel and all those things. So Syracuse has a lot of things going for it in this case. They got to kind of hold serve and I don't think the team does it. I think the rest of us as observers do it. You're counting up to 4-0 and going on the road and all that. You can't. If you're in uniform, you can't get ahead like that.
Yeah, well said. All right, 7:30 kick tomorrow night inside the Dome. Matt, thank you for the time as always. Have a good call, and we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right.